So the important thing here, as we said, is to define my goals, define the assets that I actually want to promote, and then define the channels. Okay. Once I've done that, then I will obviously look at the budget that I'm going to put to promote that campaign. Okay. So it's important for me to be able to manage the ROI of this campaign and actually be able to.
Am I going to be able to see all of these things in the same place?
I'll show you in a second. So first of all, I want to make sure that you're managing this like irrelevant of HubSpot. These were the questions that you would be asking, even if you're doing this in any other system. You would say, what am I building the campaign? I'm building a landing page. The goal is to get people to sign up. Where am I promoting it? And I have $5,000 to promote this. Okay. So now I have all the answers of all of that. And we can go, I think we can skip this about the marketing budget, if I'm doing it in-house, if I'm doing it through an agency, so on and so forth. But it's important to have those costs around this campaign, whether they're agency costs, they SEO costs, they paid costs. I would add all the costs around this campaign. So if it's one webinar, it's relatively easy because I have the cost of the paid. If it's a full-on trade show, I might have a whole bunch of costs that I want to collect, and I want to make sure I have that written down somewhere. So when I do an ROI analysis, I'll be able to say I brought in 3 opportunities that are worth $150,000. My total costs for this trade show were $50, 20 for the booth, 10 for paid, and 5 for badges or t-shirts or whatever. Together is my ROI positive or negative? Does it make sense?
It does.
Yeah. So again, now I'm talking about the content formats we use. We decide, as we said, landing pages, multiple content formats, video ads, and so on and so forth. So then I'm going to go and create my targeted campaigns, segment your audience, and track results, create emails, socials, and posts, and so on. So that is the kind of structure that you would need for running any kind of campaign. Now, once we have all that information, and that's already we've collected all the information, we have a brief, we know how to go and set up this campaign, which is in essence what you would be doing anyway. Now I'll go into HubSpot and actually into the process of setting up the campaign. So let me jump to show you actually how we set up a campaign in HubSpot. So, and then we'll go back to the actual fields that need to be updated, and it will tie into what I was talking about before. So if I go into campaigns, this is under marketing. I go into campaigns, this is our number one. I have all of my campaigns here, which is under manage. The 3 parts of campaigns that I can actually play with. One is to manage all my campaigns. I can go into actions and edit columns and add more information on the left or on the right. So I want to see, for example, in one place, everything on the campaign level. I can just do this and get rid of that, sorry. Save, and I actually have this version of seeing all the information out there. Obviously can export it and so on and so forth. I can have all my campaigns start this quarter, recently created, create your own views. So you can actually have your own specific views. I can create a list of campaigns that are trade shows, whatever field you want to add. I can have, I can add different views here based on created by others. I can filter with these filters. So I don't have all the filters in the world, but I can filter based on budget, audience, name, owner, spend, start date, and so on and so forth. So I can actually take a look at my campaigns and I can actually manage them. So for example, if I want to see all the campaigns that belong to me, if there are any like that, I can see these are my campaigns. I don't have to look at anyone else's campaigns, and so on and so forth. That's the first part of the campaign management system. The second part, any questions on your side? I know there are going to be questions coming in, but is that clear to you?
Keep an eye on that. So far, so good.
So the other thing which is really cool is that I have calendars. So if I want to actually look across the board on my calendar events and create new events and all campaigns, I can say, okay, what are the different things that I've actually set up in the back end? So I can say, am I running 2 webinars at the same time, 2 calendars? What are the posts are going out? So this is kind of putting in everything in one place, but actually shows me what's happening on Monday. I can see the social posts going out. I can see when. So this allows me to manage the actual assets, if it's social posts or calendar events that I create, which you guys always know is the calendar, but now it's connected to the campaign. So I can actually see that it's relevant, but I can also do it on a campaign level. So I can say, hang on, I want to see all the activity that we've done just for the HubSpot hacks. Okay, so let's take a look. I have my HubSpot hacks campaign. Now I see this is what's happening on the calendar, and this is what's been planned by the marketing team going forward for the next couple of days, the exact posts going out, which emails are going out. So everything is on a campaign level, and I can actually see the activity in one place. Okay. Number 2, I can actually, as I said, save the view. So I'm interested in having a calendar view just of HubSpot hacks. For example, if that's something of interest to me, which it probably is, and I say, okay, let's have HubSpot hacks as something that I can go in and see what's going on. So I can save that as a view. So now I have a view of HubSpot hacks and go forward over the months and see what's been planned by the marketing team. Okay, so that's my view. The second option, which is very interesting, is I can actually go and create marketing tasks. So this is really cool for the marketing team, where you can say, listen, in our case, reaching out to Ira, who does our social media, and say, listen, for the next HubSpot hacks, which is on reporting in 2 weeks' time, can you already set out, 2 or 3 tasks, setting up posts for 2 weeks' time? So I'm inside the task, so I can actually go and create a task here and say, send post for episode 3, and I want, let's say, an email to go out or social. So I'll connect this to HubSpot hacks, sign this to Ira, for example. And this is the tool that you guys know, so I'm not going to go into more detail, but it actually allows me to do this already from here, and it's good to go. Okay, so I'm actually managing the entire campaigns as well. That's number 1. Number 2, if I want to go in and actually create a brand new before I go in and create a brand new campaign, the other option that allows me, which is really cool now, is to compare campaigns. So if I was running a campaign this year, and let's say we ran a similar one last year, so I could actually say, let's look at HubSpot hacks, which is our new campaign. And I want to compare it in the date range of, I don't know, all time, which is okay. And I want to compare it to a webinar campaign that we did. Let's say a RevOps webinar live suites. Yeah, we had a HubSpot operations. So how did that compare? Okay. So now I can keep doing that. So now I have my 2 campaigns here or more. And I can see the start date, the end date, the owner, the goal. So now we're going back to what I was talking about at the beginning, is I want to actually set a goal so I know what the goal was. So getting engagement and conversations going, that's our goal for HubSpot hacks. It's not specifically lead gen, it's more around actually having a conversation. And the same thing with this webinar, we had RevOps engagement. I have my audience here, and I'll show you what it looks like in the front end and how we set this up. I put in my audience, and then here I actually have analytics coming through and comparing between the 2. So I see how many sessions were set up. This has obviously been running for a month and a half. This was 1 session. How many new contacts for first touch? How many influence contacts are actually touching each campaign? How many influence deals and how many closed deals? And the actual revenue that came through from those campaigns. Then I get to add campaigns. So you can see here, what's interesting is we've actually had no paid ad campaigns connected to any of these at the moment. So there's nothing coming through. No blog posts for some reason. They're either not connected to this campaign, but they should be. But call to actions, which are HubSpot call to actions inside the system on the landing pages or in inner pages, we can actually see the call to actions and go in and actually see which call to actions are performing well. Okay, which views, emails that went out, open rate, sent rate, click rate. Okay, I can go in here and see the actual emails. So it's not only giving me the information, it's also comparing to the last campaign. So for example, let's say we had HubSpot hacks 1, 2, 3, 4, and we created a campaign for each one, we could actually compare how these things are going. The same thing with the form submissions, the forms, the webinar for coming in, and then the same thing with landing pages. So if I look at submissions, for example, I can see that there are a few landing pages going through. This is mainly the one landing page and the other one, and compare between the two and so on. Social posts, websites, workflows, marketing events. So if I was doing actual, how many people, if this was a marketing webinar, we're not pushing it. This is an open webinar as you guys are all joining. So we don't actually have to convert to join this webinar. But this gives me all the information in one place. Let me stop there for a second. Perry, anything that you kind of bumped into that you think of interest, or any questions you think would be interesting for the team here, the people listening?
I think one thing is if I'm new on HubSpot, is this, how different is this than other marketing automation systems?
So the advantage of this marketing of using campaigns in HubSpot and is the ease of use, number one. Number two is that I'll show you in a second when we actually create the campaign. It allows me to bundle up everything, and if I need to build a new campaign, just clone it and it clones everything. I'll show you in a second. But what's really cool is the analytics here I can see now is that I can see it on the managed level, on the comparing campaigns level, the calendar, and because you're connecting all of the assets to the campaign, it actually allows me to focus on working in a process how I would work anyway, connecting the emails, the follow-up emails, the landing page, if there's a workflow, anything that's connected to that campaign. And then what it solves a lot of time and effort is that I don't have to go and start running around looking where's all my analytics. Do I go into the analytics team? Do I look at the email on the email level? It's all in one place. I just go into the actual campaign itself, and I'll give you an example, and I see everything. Okay. So I think that's what makes life much easier, because there are lots of assets inside HubSpot, and then I have to go and start, putting them together, looking in my analytics, creating a report for this, creating a report for that. Here I have everything in one place, so it makes life much easier. And here's an example of a campaign that, in essence, obviously we created for HubSpot Hacks. So when we create the campaign, we put in the owner, we put in the goal we talked about, the audience. Actually didn't put in the budget, but we need to put in the budget, the spend. Again, the budget and the spend is if at the end of that campaign, you'll put in the actual spend compared to what you budgeted, which might be different. Start date and end date. If I click on details, I can have a bit more details here. Company notes, and edit it, going in and actually updating information. So when you open a new campaign, this is what it looks like. I've got the spend, the budget. It can be done in different currencies that you have in your portal, and you're good to go. Then what you'll do is you'll actually go in here and start adding assets. So the way campaigns are built is that I can connect either from the asset itself in most cases, but obviously from here, any of the above, okay? So what is ad campaigns? Any of the campaigns that the ad management platform, which is in HubSpot, which is connected to Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and so on, I'll see those running ad campaigns here, and I can actually go in and actually create a campaign or connect one of them. Blog post, it shows me all my blog posts. So if there's a blog post about HubSpot hacks already, I'll be able to see, here we go, building using playbooks. I'm already connecting that, which should have been connected. Now we're good to go. Well, I've connected that. I've added an asset now, so that information around blog posts will already start coming through. Look at that. It's already connected, and views, and so those views for this time period. Again, if I want to add, so I've got blog posts, I've got call to actions, emails, any emails that we said are connected, forms or landing pages. So just start pulling out all the forms and landing pages, and shows you already what is connected. Marketing events is something new where you can actually create a marketing event in HubSpot, which could be an external webinar or anything else. And then I can actually, or a trade show, I can actually add that marketing event. So it's not an actual asset inside HubSpot, it's rather an event, which will probably be an external one. Social posts, I can connect. Static lists, which is very important because I might adding, the only thing I can't do is I can't use a smart list. So static lists helps me a lot because I can say here, when I come back from a trade show, for example, I'll upload a static list of all the members that attended. And then what I can do is I can connect that static list, and then I have all those people as obviously members of that campaign. Website pages and workflows. Where's workflows very particular and a great way to connect things, especially if I'm using, if I'm connecting to another CRM and I need to push them as campaign members, and we'll talk about that kind of towards the end, then I'll have that workflow that creates you as a member in a Salesforce campaign. For example, I can connect in HubSpot all those people going through that workflow to the HubSpot campaign by just connecting the workflow, obviously in parallel to a landing page or anything else. So that's how I connect the assets. And then once I've connected the assets, you actually, so what's cool about this now is I can actually go and say, I don't remember what's already connected. Maybe something's missing. Maybe, you know, we missed out on the blog post like we just did. So I can just have, go through this, and you see it's all in one place. I see the blog posts, the call to actions, all the emails that are connected to this, the forms, the landing pages, social posts, and so on. Okay, if I add something else, in this case, I haven't added a workflow, but if I added a workflow, it would be here as well. And then what this allows me to do is, let's say we were doing HubSpot Hacks 1 as a separate campaign, HubSpot Hacks 2, 3, 4, and 5. What I would do is I would just click on this and clone. So once I clone, I'll actually do this now, just as, let's say, HubSpot Hacks 2024, get it ready for 2024, because I want a separate campaign, have this start, and let's say January 2024, and this end on December 2024. Okay, clone. So this is really cool. What will happen? It will actually go in and build everything from scratch with a new version. So we're ready to go for our HubSpot Hacks 2024. We need to just update all the information, but all the assets have been already built while we're sitting. So if I go now, click on View Campaign and go into Assets, I have a blog post that is a clone of the blog post, which needs to be updated. I have CTAs, which are all clone versions. Okay. So if I go into this, it's the same version, it's the same, but this is actually cloned. Okay, it's a new one. Sorry, I need to go back here. You see there's no data for any of these yet. Now I can decide if I want to use them. All these emails are ready to be gone into their draft mode. I'll just need to update them, obviously. A form, I've got a brand new form, I've got brand new landing pages. They're all exactly the same, but I don't start from scratch. So this is a really powerful tool that will allow your marketing operations and marketing team to say, okay, when there are campaigns that we're going to be doing periodically every few months or every a couple of months, it's a webinar and so forth, or a trade show, all the assets can be created from just by clicking on that button, and then I'm good to go. Okay. So I think that's one of the powerful things. Marketo has something similar like this, but it really saves a lot of time and makes things that there's standardized, and you kind of make sure that the team is working the same way, especially if it's campaigns that marketing campaigns that you do the same thing or similar version of it every once in a while.
So Mark,
yeah,
is that we have call it a question comment from Lizzie Butterfield, who's really been helping me answer the questions. When I say help me, she's been answering the questions. But she has an interesting comment. I want to ask her to join. Let's see if I press the button here.
Yes, that's worked.
There she is. Well, first of all, nice to meet you.
And you?
Where are you from?
I'm from Derbyshire in England, in the UK. So not a million miles away.
Yeah, just a half a minute. Yeah. So welcome to the show. And you had a really interesting comment in the questions, and I think it's really well worth bringing it on. And if Mark has any comments, I'm sure he'll share as well. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it was a question, because we're using the campaigns tool quite a lot in HubSpot now, and I had a bit of an interesting scenario the other day. So basically, as part of the campaign activity, we have individuals who on their personal LinkedIn accounts will go and build connections with specific sectors for their region as a part of that campaign activity. But then, because it's a personal LinkedIn account, obviously it's not connected to HubSpot. So then when they come to add the contact, they would manually add the contact and it wouldn't be connected to the campaign in any way. So we needed a workaround to attribute those contacts to the campaign. So the kind of workaround that I came up with was to create a form that the user filled in just with the basic contact information, and it assigns it to the relevant person in the background, yada, yada, yada. So that form is then associated to the campaign. So then those contacts are attributed to that campaign. And I was just wondering if you had a sort of better way of doing it, or any kind of better practice around that at all.
So if I understand correctly, they are promoting in their personal LinkedIn, they're promoting the specific webinar or anything that you're promoting, correct?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
What about creating a unique link in HubSpot and giving each person their own UTM, and then based on the UTM, are you sending them to a landing page anyway?
Not necessarily, no. So it's more with our kind of industry campaigns, our sector campaigns, it's more that they'll filter down and look for people with the relevant job role, try and connect with them on LinkedIn, strike up a conversation with them. They might not even send them they might always even send them the same information every time, or the same link. It's not, we don't really do kind of webinars and stuff like that for our products, because it's not really relevant to our industry.
You're creating a form for every person, a unique form for each of these people?
Well, it's so because the campaigns are broken down by territory, we tend to only have one person doing this per territory. So we don't have multiple people doing it per campaign. So yeah, I'm cloning the form to the different campaigns, but that's okay because we've only got one individual per campaign.
So two ways of doing it. One is to carry on this way. The other option is to have one form that you send out to everyone and just add your people to this form, but give each of the people a unique link with the UTM and then have a hidden field in the form that captures that UTM. Okay. So let's say you had the UTM question mark UTM source equals Mark Fisher. So then I know that if I send that to one of my leads and they fill out the form, if they're interested, or if I fill it out, even if I put it out myself and put the data, I know that that will come in with UTM mark, and then you can create a smart list, put them in a campaigns, and anyone with UTM mark goes into and give kind of the attribution of that person.
I like that idea. That would reduce the number of forms we've got.
There you go. Thanks, Lizzie.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
And then you just have one new form. And the way to do that, by the way, is either do that by yourself, or you can go into the analytics tools, and at the bottom here, click on track a URL builder that you usually use for paid, but you go in and create a new one here. So anyway, this ties in with the campaigns, because this is the campaign that you'll be creating, the overall campaign, correct? So if it would be HubSpot hacks, I'd be using HubSpot hacks here anyway. And then this would be the URL for everyone. I wouldn't use any of these. I would use other campaigns because this is unique. And then the UTM source would be, as I said, let's say Mark Fisher, for example. I don't know if I need this, but I can add any of that. Click on create, and I send them that URL.
Perfect.
Elegant.
Okay, yeah, because it's similar. Because in essence, you want to capture that attribution.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that it's the same thing with paid, or it's anything else. I could do the same kind of thing if we're running a campaign, and now we want to give out certain links that people actually put in their emails. So if you're getting people to promote anything, and you're doing a promotion with partners, so I would do the same thing. I would connect the campaign. I would create that unique link from that campaign. Okay, you can actually do a unique link creation from here, by the way. I do create tracking URL. It already starts it with HubSpot hacks and so on. I can do it from here as well. And then send that out and get people to add that to their emails. So it's not an email going out from HubSpot, your HubSpot, it's rather email going out from one of their partners. When they click in, then that person actually comes in, and then obviously I'll be able to see that analytics. So I'll show you exactly how they come in. So once I come in, I actually see the traffic, and you see that they'll come in through the source that you talked about. So what will pop up here will be other campaigns, and then you'll be able to see who those people are. In our case, we've got organic social that are actually coming in, and we've got email marketing. Okay, so email marketing means that these are people that have actually received an email from us and forwarded it, because obviously the people that received the email were already in the database. So that's not their source of them joining. But this is, if I click in, it'll show me which emails are actually bringing in new visitor sessions. Okay, so the same way I can go into organic social and see how LinkedIn and Twitter are progressing. So this actually gives me all the information and shows me. I'm kind of moving to the next thing, just to piggyback off what you were talking about, which I think is actually around attribution. So if I click in here, I'll get to attribution in a second, but the performance shows us first touch or last touch, all data, whatever data range I want. And then again, sessions, which gives us exactly what the sessions are, which is counting on how many visits on your website or any of the landing pages, wherever you guys have a tracking code. New contacts, last touch, first touch means how many people actually, and this is unique apropos, Perry, that this, it doesn't exist in Salesforce campaigns either. To differentiate between influence contacts and new contacts. You can build it, but it's not out of the box. This is really important because this sees how many actual new people this campaign has created. So it's actually quite cool that I can see that from this campaign, we've actually created 30 new people that weren't in the database before we started running with HubSpot hacks. Obviously, influence contacts, we have a whole bunch because the influence is people that we've reached out or people that are already in the database. But this is not the first campaign that they connected to. They were either in any other campaign or they existed in the database before we start running this campaign. And we have a closed deal here that came through. Now, all of this is around the time period, okay? So if you guys don't add the start date, the end dates is important as well. Hang on, I just discovered a bug here. Good to know that we're doing that. This should be, as we said, at the end of the year, and then we can run a new one. So the start date is really important because anyone that converts before then HubSpot doesn't know how to connect between the campaign and then when they came in. So it's important to know that you add always the start date. Once I add the start date, then I actually have the analytics and the analytics come in correctly and say, okay, how many new contacts or influence contacts came in? And then the breakdown is, again, new contacts, influence contacts on a daily basis, sessions. So you can actually see how this is tracking on your website. And then it goes down to the actual assets. So I have all the different assets here. I can expand all, or I can collapse all. And this is kind of my dashboard to show how the campaign is going overall and per asset. So is social working well, a blog post working well, emails, forms, landing pages, so on and so forth. Obviously, a lot of these are connected because my traffic is going to my landing page, my email is that, but it's actually showing, unique opens. Okay, so some of these people are already in the database, especially in our case that we're not actually forcing anyone to sign up. So it's important for us to see the actual engagement. So this is all coming in, and this is really powerful to see this all in one place. The other thing which I find really, which is great now, which is new, is the asset type by contacts created. So now you have an attribution, and you can decide which model you want to look at, whether it's first touch, last touch, U-shape. I'm not going to go into linear, means you're giving it equal weight for each touch, but this is an attribution that actually just for the specific campaign, and you can see which ones are attributing more. So obviously the landing page is more than the social post. We can have the specific assets themselves based on interaction. So is it organic, social media? You can see social media is working really well. Page views, form submissions. So that's a very basic attribution, but it's very powerful to give us kind of more information. If we have, I think, enterprise, which we actually don't, enterprise on sales and revenue, we would be able to go in here. I'm assuming this is going to pop up for enterprise sales. We would have an attribution model on the deals created and the revenue as well. Okay, but I do have it on the level of how many people and the revenue with the closed deals. Any questions that come to mind, Perry?
No questions. You must be an incredible teacher because nobody has any questions or everybody's really shy. I'm going to take advantage of the 45-minute point because that's typically when people start dropping off. That in 2 weeks, we are going to be talking about reporting with HubSpot's one and only Risa Gooding. So those of you who are on should know that to be there, to join us in 2 weeks again. This is every 2 weeks. Also, send us your questions, send us your topics, and we'll make sure that it comes up. Anything that can help you in your job, that's what we're here for. An hour of whatever topic you want, we'll make sure that it comes on in one of the future HubSpot Hacks webinars. So that was the commercial break brought by our sponsor, which we don't have.
Excellent. I do want to focus on a few things, kind of best practices over time, besides the technical side and how everything we talked about. So one of the common mistakes that we have, it's not a common mistake, but it's something to be aware of. If I send an email out to the entire database inviting them to the webinar, okay, my number of associated contacts that will be connected to their campaign because of the email will be the amount of people in that list. Okay. So if my goal, for example, is an ebook or a webinar, and I'm inviting people, and I'm interested on the high level, not the breakdown that I showed you before, the high level of how many people actually connected per associated contacts, what we call contact members in Salesforce or associated contacts in HubSpot. I want the people that actually engaged, the people that opened an email, clicked an email is more important, or even go to the next level. I'm only interested in seeing the people that actually signed up for this ebook, for example, or for this webinar. Then do not connect that email that you sent out. Connect the version of clicked emails. I can do that. I can create a list of only people that are clicking the email and then add them as associated contacts and people that filled out the form. So then I'm not skewing the analytics, and I'm going back to the goals of what are my actual goals that I want to track on the analytics side, okay? Not per asset, but on the high level like I showed at the beginning. So I'm trying to generate leads and create conversations. So if it's increasing conversations engagement, then that's one thing. But similar to how I would be pushing contact members into Salesforce, I would never put all the contacts that received my email into Salesforce as members. It would be people that either signed up for the webinar and or people that clicked on the email, let's say. So I would make sure that that analytics is set up and I'm connecting the asset in the right way, that I don't actually skew the results and say, wow, this was amazing. The whole database interacted with our campaign. Well said, of course it interacted. They didn't even open the email, but you just sent it out to the entire database. So I'm seeing it in analytics. So that's one mistake that is important to focus on, and understanding what is the general goal here that you want to set up. I'll go through these to see if there's anything that we haven't touched on. But
you actually said something that brings up a question. Anne Pisano, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, asked, how do you tie revenue to the campaign? Does your sales department have to advance the lead to a deal record that was generated from that marketing campaign, or is that must be a later thing, correct? Just
so automatically a closed one.
And by the way, just text me if you have follow-up questions to whatever Mark says. Happy to bring you onto the show.
Okay, excellent. That's a great question. So how does the ROI work? The ROI in HubSpot actually pulls back the data based on the closed one. So if I have revenue, again, we have the budget, I have the ROI campaign, and I can actually work out the difference between how much I spent on the campaign and then what my ROI is. So if I closed one deal or two deals, and let's say that's $20,000, and my cost is $10,000, so the ROI will be one divided by the other. And that is obviously based on closed one, okay? Because it doesn't take the amount of an opportunity, rather because it's proper ROI, it's going through. Another way of measuring it is to actually see how many deals I have, okay? So deals means I've opened an opportunity. It's one before. It doesn't mean it's closed one. It doesn't give me the ROI, but it gives me the potential, which in essence is the main metric that we're looking to today. MQLs, SQLs, and everything are just a means to an end. But if I open an opportunity and that is managed properly by the sales team, then I can actually say, listen, we had 20 people that came in. We had 50 contacts. 30 of them, we moved down the funnel through this campaign because they're associated. We brought in 20 new people, and there are 3 opportunities and 1 closed one. So I have a customer as well. So that's the attribution reporting that you need to go at the end of the month when this campaign is actually completed, and go back to in order to get more budget, to actually prove and show the sales team and show the rest of the people in your company that you're working for, okay, this campaign, we should do something similar or the same thing next year or next quarter because it's been successful. And let's say how we can learn and improve on that. Or listen, nothing's coming through, or it's not meeting our goals and our metrics. So let's see how we improve on this. And that's very important. So that's coming through closed one. The same thing, the way it works in Salesforce. In Salesforce, you have there how many leads, how many contacts, how many opportunities, and then the ROI coming through. One thing about just if they are working between HubSpot and Salesforce, because I know some of you guys are, you would, so this is just the analytics that I've already showed you. We don't have to go through that, the landing pages. So what I would do is I would actually set up a workflow between HubSpot and Salesforce. And what I would do is I would have to create, so I would create that campaign in HubSpot, create the campaign in Salesforce. And then the way to connect between the two is the following, is I need to just create a campaign in a workflow, click on workflows and go forward here. The connector between the two. So here I would have my enrollment criteria. Again, think about, is it closed? Is it people that are filling out the form or people that open the email? A combination between the two. Who do I want to have as a campaign member in Salesforce? So I can use that in parallel to HubSpot. And then I go to create a Salesforce campaign. Once the campaign is created, it will automatically pop up here from Salesforce. We're not connected to Salesforce. And I can choose the status, I can save, and then anyone that gets enrolled in the program, okay, inside the workflow gets added as a Salesforce campaign member, and then I can manage it. So the process here would be go into Salesforce, have your naming convention, set up your Salesforce campaign, go into HubSpot, create the same naming convention, have the same Salesforce, the same campaign name, connect the assets. And even if you don't need to connect any assets, I would connect the assets. But what I would do as well, I would also connect, just for the HubSpot side, I would just click on the campaign here. So I just click on HubSpot Hacks 2022, and now they're connected. Okay. So that's the way to connect between the two systems if you are using HubSpot and Salesforce. If you're using just HubSpot, you're good to go. So I said I would define the campaign, go forward, define the campaign goal, and create the workflow that I showed you, go into Salesforce and have my naming conventions, fill it out in Salesforce like I was talking about. You can look at different naming conventions, and then you actually have the opportunity to use both of those tools in parallel. And the reason I would use both of them and not give up on the HubSpot side ever, even if you do have Salesforce as a CRM, is because that gives you great analytics that Salesforce will never give you on the asset level, like I showed you before. What assets are doing well? So if I go back one step, this is the view that as the marketing team is very important for me, okay? How are my assets going? How they're progressing? What's working? What isn't working? And I have that all in one place. So if I don't, that's for number one. And number two, if I want to create this again, I just clone and I'm good to go forward. Do we have any other questions coming through?
I think you answered them. And since the optimal time, according to studies, for a webinar is 55 minutes, we have 2 minutes left. If anybody else has anything they want to say, it's a good time to send it to us. Of course, we're available 24/7 on digital. Don't expect us to answer 24/7. And we'll, there's a quick question here. Do you need to create all landing pages, blogs with HubSpot marketing tools? What if you have a website marketing team that creates in other places? So I'm assuming if you created the landing page, let's say on WordPress.
So that's why you have forms. If you create it on WordPress, you will have a HubSpot form. If you have a HubSpot form, you connect the HubSpot form to your campaign. Anyone that fills out the form, I don't need the HubSpot landing page, I'm good to go. You don't have a HubSpot form for some reason, you need to upload that. You connect the static list, you upload that list, and then they get added as contacts into the form. So there's always a way to do it. That's why HubSpot built out the forms that they connect directly to. So everything can be connected in that sense. Again, if I'm doing a webinar or some kind of promotion and I'm getting a bunch of leads or paying for a bunch of leads in some kind of, through content syndication. I don't have any API to push those into HubSpot. Should get a CSV file, upload them into HubSpot, and then enroll that static list into my campaign and attach that as the asset. And then I will see all that information coming in.
Thanks, Mark.
Again, if you click on campaign analytics here, sorry, one thing I just forgot to show you. If you click on campaign analytics, this is this kind of the same version that we saw before, but a nicer version of influence contacts and other metrics. And this is connected to the analytics tools. And I can actually look at the different campaigns all in one shot as well.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for those of you who woke up extra early. I saw some Central Time US people. I appreciate that. Let's let everybody go. So they have 5 minutes to have a cup of coffee or go have a beer, depending where you are, and get to the next meeting later.
Thank you very much, everyone.